what's your backstory?
I've been in comas. I've got a rare autoimmune condition, Addison's disease, the same disease JFK had. The nightmares of my comas cause PTSD. I've had 4 major surgeries. Every year I need to have a medical procedure. At the end of 2017, I almost died from Addison's disease, created the Rugare Boxing Championships, but I also started sharing my story on LinkedIn with a message of courage, LGBTQ plus advocacy, getting worldwide media.
When in your life have you felt like a failure?
I had asthma as a teenager. My A-level results were a D and an E, and I thought I'd failed. But I went to the university which was right for me. And that university, I had so many opportunities. I was captain of the swimming team. I was the sports editor of the newspaper, and the lifelong friendships I made. Absolutely the right university for me. I think if I'd gone to a different university, it may have been different, but I felt a failure, but I'd still passed. Every exam you failed has led you to where you are right now.
My name is Rugare Gomo. I am your high-performance life and business coach and strategist. I work with all people who want to bring their dreams and goals to life with velocity. Business leaders, entrepreneurs, artists, retirees, moms, dads, innovators, all people. People who work with me have said that they experience more freedom, more joy, power, abundance, creativity, and peace of mind. If this is you today, come and work with me and have your BAM moment that will change the trajectory of your life forever. Visit my website at www.rugaregomo.com for more information. My name is Rugare Gomo, and I am your high-performance life and business coach and strategist. This show exists to inspire and empower you to dream, forge your own path, and be the leader in your life. And it is my greatest pleasure to introduce you to Martin Stark. Hi, Martin.
Hey, Rugare, thanks for inviting me to be on the podcast.
You're so welcome. This is so exciting to have you here. So I just want to introduce who you are to our audience. So Martin is known around the world as the Courage Champion. He's the founder and CEO of the World Gay Boxing Championships, which he set up to increase LGBTQAI plus participation and lead change in the sport. Martin delivered the world's first boxing competition for the LGBTQIA plus community as part of Sydney World Pride. And on top of that, this year you were also in Chicago, where you threw the ceremonial opening pitch for the Chicago Cubs Pride Games, which was so exciting to watch and view. You're an inspirational speaker, you're an entrepreneur, and you've been featured in so many newspapers around the world: CNN, BBC, The Guardian, ABC, so many places. So it is such a great privilege to have you here today to share your life and inspire the audience of what is possible in living a very full life.
Well, thanks, my friend. As always, I'd just like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land where I currently am, the Gamaraga people, and pay respect to elders past, present, and emerging, and extend that respect to all Aboriginal, Torres Strait Islander, First Nations people. My pronouns are he, him. And I was in Chicago a few months ago delivering the second World Gay Boxing Championships with our good friends Diego and Kale from Strong Hands Gym in Chicago, an LGBTQ plus boxing and MMA gym. What a perfect location for an LGBTQ plus boxing event.
That's extraordinary. What you have accomplished and how you use your life for spaces for people like you and I to thrive is just wonderful. Even seeing it in the Olympic Games right now, we can see that we've still got a little bit of work to do for inclusivity.
Well, when we're talking about the Olympics media, I'm happy to name 2 people, J.K. Rowling and Jake Paul. Jake Paul is probably the most influential person in boxing right now. J.K. Rowling, one of the most influential women in the world. The poor 2 women boxers jumping to conclusions and assuming the worst and causing a social media pylon I condemned both J.K. Rowling and Jake Paul in the media. I was interviewed by the Express in the US. So it takes great courage to defend people in front of two of the most influential people in the world. So one of the most courageous things I've done for a few weeks at least.
It's amazing. And thank you so much for using your voice and your life for that. It matters. It really absolutely matters for the what kind of world we want to see and be part of. But what we want to do then here today is, of course, we are going to really focus on your journey today, Martin. But before we do that, I like to start by some words you live by. Are there any words you live by?
I have three words tattooed on my back, and they are courage, actually four words. So courage and fear nothing. And there's the word, but
Sure.
it's basically courage, fear nothing.
Courage, fear nothing. And what led to you having that tattooed?
Courage has been part of my life without me fully embracing it for most of my life. Surviving comas, having a tracheotomy, almost dying several times. And it was in a performance review years ago where the words were, I would like Martin to be more courageous, even when I was getting high achiever and one of the top performers in the organization. So I just embraced that. And at Mardi Gras a few years ago, I had courage written on my back. And then I just made that into a permanent marker, part of my DNA in essence. And it was tattooed. And I think the year later, I think Mardi Gras theme that year was fearless. I decided I didn't want fearless. Let's just go fear nothing. So that's
Mm.
that's how they were permanent reminders for me.
And not only permanent reminders for you, but permanent reminders for the world.
Pretty much.
You are known as the courage champion, no matter where we go in the world. And so what is so special about courage? What's this all about? What's the story?
So I define courage as taking ownership of fear, venturing forward with confidence and resilience. So let's look at fear, our reactions to fear. And there are four. There's that classic fight or flight, but there's also freeze, you're struck with fear, or there's actually fawn rolling into a ball. So let's just go with that fight or flight. Sometimes fighting isn't the right thing to do. The best thing to do is to scarp up. The other times, you do need to fight for your rights, not a physical fight, but just to stand firm. Fear is an excellent source of information. It tells you how you feel and can guide you into better decision making. So I used to be very scared of snakes. Now, in Australia, I've never seen a venomous snake. But if I were walking and I saw a brown snake or a death adder, what would I do? Is I would stop, walk away, give the snake the space because the snake is probably going to be more scared of me than I am of it. Is it going to be striking or is it going to want to walk away or slither away? Of course, the snake is going to want to slither away. And then you walk straight past. So that's one example. But look at another example of fear. You're scared of doing something, going for a drive. You haven't passed your driving test yet. You have an exam. You have a job interview. Now, overcoming those fears help you get to that next stage or get the job, get the promotion. So are you going to be courageous and overcome the fear, or are you going to allow fear to stop you from achieving that goal and making that goal significantly harder?
Very, very powerful. I love the part when you say that sometimes we have to fight for ourselves. Recently, I'm getting ready for my book launch in Melbourne, and we wanted to have the former multicultural commissioner in Victoria to be my interviewer. And unfortunately, they declined because they were scared that if they were to interview me at the Pride Center, um, their family back on the African continent may be targeted and be put in danger. And that was appalling, of course, to
Of
hear.
course
Like
it is.
I could completely empathize regarding that. But then what I was shocked about was that they had a position of power, being a commissioner of multiculturalism of which in Australia, gay rights, LGBT rights are part of,
Yeah.
living in Australia. And I felt so let down because I realized that if that's what they were carrying with them, who's been advocating for me at that level?
If we look at the world right now, the world is, I'd call this period the great pushback. After equality, for like marriage equality, other forms of equality, with algorithms becoming angry rhythms, and this whole message of when anybody describes something as woke and complaining, I ask, can you define what woke means? And they usually can't. Or I say, are you against initiatives to stop racism, homophobia? Of course they're not. So I don't know what they're complaining about. But there's that base of anger that will pass. History has shown us repeatedly those periods pass. But when they're present, it's people, innocent people, minoritized people who suffer. And I think that's a period we're in right now. So look at younger generations. Where's the hope there? What are they saying? What are their values? So I have hope for the future. Now, I will never say to somebody, you need to put yourself at risk in order to be an ally. I say about making sure you have your psychological and physical safety and also the safety of those people around you. However, there are certain things that you can do, maybe report something later, but have conversations. Have a conversation. For example, my family in this situation may be at risk, but what's at risk is people's lives. People are affected by racism and homophobia. What causes homophobia, etc., it is talking about the problem itself and why they are standing firm. It's about changing hearts and minds. Social media hashtags and comments after an event are nowhere near as impactful as having conversations, reaching out. So I'll give you an example. There was a bit of furore about police participating in pride events. Now, in 2023, the New South Wales government, I think from a judge, published the inquiry into the police handling of LGBTQ plus hate crimes. I reached out to my state MP and asked for a letter from the police minister asking how the recommendations from the inquiry would be implemented. It took about 4 months. I then had a meeting with my state MP who said she will raise this in Parliament when she's on a committee looking at equality, but also when she meets with the police leaders of the local area command. Now, anybody complaining about police being at Pride, my question to them is, have you written an email to your state MP asking how changes will be made? It takes a minute or two to send an email, about the same amount of time to be complaining on social media. Two actions have a greater impact. Which one do you choose?
I just love it. Two actions have an impact. Which one do you choose?
Yeah,
Being on social media, venting, or actually engaging in a conversation?
yeah.
And this is why I just wanted you to be on this show today, Martin, because you have been using your life having conversations with people who don't think like you, don't see the world the way you see it, and having meeting and talking to people who have lots of prejudices. So, how did you get to be using your life this way? What's your backstory?
My backstory, I've been in comas. I've got a rare autoimmune condition, Addison's disease. It's the same disease JFK had. The nightmares of my comas cause PTSD. I've had 4 major surgeries. Every year I need to have a medical procedure to stop pain, basically stopping me enjoying life because the pain stops me from doing the things I enjoy doing. At the end of 2017, I almost died from Addison's disease. That experience brought back memories of the nightmares and the comas. I started boxing, created the World Gay Boxing Championships, but I also started sharing my story on LinkedIn with a message of courage, LGBTQ plus advocacy, getting worldwide media. At the same time, having challenging conversations, raising the issue of homophobia with boxing organizations and organizations involved in the sport. Not everybody likes me talking about this. Not all of them like me mentioning this. Ignoring emails, backtracking on promises, all of those, which I'm not going to name because there are some things to influence and engage you do in private because it serves no purpose to be asked, they did this, they did that. So it's who I don't mention is kind of where you may guess. But the fact that Boxing Australia, within 2 weeks of me emailing them, the whole board voted to support me at the World Gay Boxing Championships, provided exceptional support. The fact that the World Boxing Council, within 2 days of me emailing them, were issuing letters of support and videos of support and have been absolutely outstanding. Other boxing organizations give me endorsements. Some haven't. I focus on the ones that do and making the change with the organizations which are genuine in their support. Because if you tackle homophobia, you can tackle racism, you can tackle misogyny, other forms of prejudice. You focus on one area, you can support other areas in the same way.
It's so powerful what you said because my belief system is my freedom as a Black, gay, migrant must also elevate the lives of other people around me, and that's a mantra I live by. My freedom shouldn't be punishing somebody else. We should be all raising each other up. And one of the things I fundamentally believe is the women's rights movement was one of the causes why I get to also be free. It instigated the gay rights movement.
Yeah.
So there isn't like one movement that's more important than the other. We're all rising up together. And what's so powerful about everything you shared is, you've had and have many challenges in your life. And what a common theme I keep hearing is you have a purpose in life that you discovered that was greater than your circumstances. You found a way, you started boxing, then you created the World Gay Boxing Championships, and now you're using your life for that. How does creating and discovering that make a difference to your personal life on a day-to-day basis?
Because I meet the right people for me and the right people for the common purpose, becoming a collective voice of change. There are some people, it's what I call shiny toy syndrome. Shiny toy, it's great, it's sparkling, you want to be in front of the media, Instagram, TikTok, whatever. But when the hard work comes, you're kind of finished. Tell me when I can be fabulous this time next year. You scratch beneath the surface. Is there something of substance? It's that you work with. You bake a cake with all the magical ingredients that everybody can enjoy the flavor, and there's a slice for everybody. So you find the people who believe in what you believe in, you support them, and they support you, and they just want to do it because they believe in the purpose. They're kind, compassionate people who open doors, transfer privilege, all of those things. People are more likely to support you if they see how determined and you're putting in the hard work. You don't lose weight by eating crisps every day and going for a walk to burn off the calories. You lose weight by eating fewer crisps and going for a walk. It's that caloric deficit. Well, if there's an energy deficit, you're not going to achieve as much as somebody who puts the energy in to achieving the outcome.
And so how did you get connected to this purpose? Because you said you found what was right for you. And when I talk to so many people, they'll be like asking me, but how do I find what's right for me?
It comes down to common values and your core beliefs,
Mm,
courage, integrity, inclusion, respect, community, meeting people. That's how I found it.
mm,
And then I saw the opportunity. Gay games wasn't offered, so boxing wasn't offered at the gay games I wanted to go to. So I created the competition and dedicated my life to eradicating hatred in sport, and sacrificing a big part of my life. At the same time, it's been rewarding in terms of the difference I've made, the people I've met, the friendships I've made. If you have the guts to do it, do it. If you want to help somebody, help them. Don't complain when others achieve things that you had the opportunity of doing. You're invited to join them, but you decided not to.
I think that's really powerful because you talked about the shiny toy syndrome.
Yeah,
And when I look at your life, it's not sustainable. If I know you're the real deal because you've kept going in the face of so many obstacles.
yeah,
And that's what I love about your courage. Like you have the courage to actually live out your core values because it could be so easy not to do that on a daily basis. I know when I've compromised my core values, particularly in my early 20s, late 20s, and thinking that if I were to compromise, I would get ahead in life. But what I discovered when I compromised my values, I'm the one who's impacted. It led
yeah,
for me to illness, mental health issues, financial ruin, and actually homelessness.
yeah,
So I've discovered that the so-called trying to take the shortcut in life, follow other people's paths other than my own is so detrimental. So I just want to really celebrate and acknowledge you for being one of those role models. And our relationship came out of that, really.
absolutely. It's how we met, how we became friends. And I came over and we had coffee a couple of months ago.
Yes,
I
it was
mean,
so good.
I'm writing my book now, a memoir on courage. As part of the research, I
Mm,
wanted to look at what conversations were like the year I was born or around the year I was born. Muhammad Ali, my absolute hero, he was interviewed several times by Michael Parkinson, who was Britain's probably most well-known talk show host, and he really got to the heart of the conversations. Now we talk about racism today, and we still see, if you, as we're recording this right now, what's happening in the UK. You
mm,
know, the abject violence, the misinformation. But go back 50 years, Michael Parkinson challenging Muhammad Ali about why he talks about racism so much. And there was a person from the audience stood up with those words, why don't you? And it was essentially, why don't you focus on everybody being happy and equality and all of those things?
mm,
Everything's okay because this man was involved in England boxing. He said, we have black men and white men on the England boxing team in the 1970s, as
mm,
if everything's okay. That absolutely, it was fantastic. There was visible representation of black male boxers
mm,
in 1970s UK, where we know at that time there was abject racism and prejudice. How many barriers did they have to go through? But because there were black men on the England boxing team in the 1970s,
mm,
did not mean there was not widespread racism in the 1970s.
mm,
What we celebrate is that barriers were removed so that people could be part of the boxing team,
mm,
but it doesn't stop there. So it's that's the nuance. It's anger and empathy are two sides of the same coin.
mm,
Right now, too many people are angry, not having empathy. That
mm,
will flip. You have empathy for people and anger at prejudice. At the
mm,
moment, there's too much anger about people saying, I'm experiencing prejudice and I want your empathy.
mm. It's fascinating. Recently I got evicted from my home. It's not eviction, but we've been given 30 days notice to leave our home. And I
Yeah,
shared this on LinkedIn. But for me, what was traumatizing was all the other families with children who are told they have to leave their home in 30 days to try to find a new school, change doctors, friendships. It's awful.
Yeah.
And I was angry. I was absolutely angry. Now, when I wrote this post, I wrote it from like understanding and empathy. Like, I'll be fine. I've got the
Yeah.
toolkits, I live in Australia. I've got resources. I'll be fine. But there was a person really on LinkedIn who started shaming and blaming, ministers, political parties, and I felt slightly uncomfortable with
Yeah.
that, approach, because I know that as imperfect as things are, many people are trying to do their best to cause change. What is your view of the approach of shaming and blaming to cause change
Not
in the world?
not a general fan. I think there's that nuance of highlighting awareness, highlighting the issue. There are times, absolutely, when you call out or call in individuals for what they're saying, when they're causing hate. I think having to go at an individual without knowing the facts, you attack the position, not the person, is my general guide. I do not like where certain organization may stand on backtracking on support for the LGBTQ plus community. Am I going to call out their head of DEI? Absolutely not. They're probably trying to battle an internal thing. When you talk about in general things that their position they've changed, where do you truly stand? That's where I think there's more impact. There's also taken on board other people's issues and centering yourself as some kind of savior. I'll give you an example. When I was at university, there was somebody running for student union president, and they always had a cause. I wasn't out at the time. It was a very different era. But it was like, do you know what it's like for gay people? Do you know what it's like for this? Do you know what it's like for that?
Mm.
And I was saying to my mind was saying, actually, know what it's like for gay people because I'm too scared to come out. But you're just trying to take on these causes for your own purpose without actually saying what you stand for and believe in so that people can. And that's the difference. I think if you can amplify other people's stories rather than center yourself on a story. I'll give an example. A few weeks ago, somebody I'm acquainted with wanted me to shout them out on social media. And it was about an opportunity for a particular community.
Mm.
And I thought I could absolutely will do that, but I use the words, I'm giving a shout out to amplify the message of somebody.
Mm-hmm.
These are the opportunities. If I said there's a great opportunity for this community, people being people would have automatically thought I was involved in that. It's great you're doing this work, Martin. None of that work would have been me whatsoever. What I wanted to do was highlight the opportunity by amplifying the message of somebody. And that's the difference.
And I think what you're saying is so powerful because in a world of where we're encouraged for fame, for status, for reputation,
Yeah.
And on social media where it's easy to do that, what you're saying is really let's be focused on the cause, on the mission, be on purpose,
Yeah.
and make sure how we're communicating is on purpose.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I love having conversations with you because it's not ego driven whatsoever. You're so razor sharp focused on getting the work done, elevating all people's
Yeah.
lives for equality. It's amazing.
Let's imagine the hurdles in a 100-meter hurdle race or 110-meter hurdle race. Those hurdles are barriers. Now, it's not season for training, that's all. And those hurdles are put together and they make a table. And with those tables, the coach brings out coffee for the spectators. It's a way of thanking their time and effort. So the athletes, the coach, and the spectators all enjoy coffee over a table of hurdles. Those hurdles are now a way of connecting. Hurdles, you see a hurdler, how they just make the hurdles don't get in their way. The hurdles make them become the champion. They've transformed hurdles into winning medals, into winning races.
Mm.
If you can apply courage to hurdles, that's where you can be innovative. You can work around. Or imagine somebody running the race and they see the hurdle and they go, I'm going to wait till somebody removes the hurdles and everybody else in the race is finished. And they're waiting till the end of the day for the person who works at the track to remove them. I'm going to finish the race now.
Mm.
Slight nuance, but hurdles can become tables, but you can navigate them. You can jump over them.
Yes. You know, what you said is so powerful because I relate to that in my own life. You know, coming to Australia, there were so many hurdles. Having a Zimbabwean passport traveling the world is a hurdle. I have to get a visa. I have to prove
Yeah.
that I'm financially stable. So I can either live as a victim to that
Yeah.
and wait for the world to
Yeah.
change.
Yeah.
But what I've learned in life is I've got to change in order to change the world, in essence.
There's something else I want to add to the analogy of hurdles. As leaders, what we can do is remove the hurdles. So you are running 100 meters,
Mm,
not having to run the 100-meter hurdles.
mm,
That takes effort to remove those hurdles. Some of them are there because they're building systems over decades and
mm,
you didn't put them there. But if you can remove those hurdles, the uplift is significant.
mm. Completely and entirely. You know, people, I had no money when I came to Australia, but people gave me money to attend
Yeah,
university. That was a hurdle
yeah,
that got removed for me to acquire an education that allows me to be even in this
yeah,
conversation today. So it's both ways. It's like you're tackling the same problem, issue, or scenario from
yeah,
different angles, but in a way that's empowering.
yeah.
It's
It's
awesome.
there's an intersectional approach to this. It's if you can understand people from different communities, their issues, and find commonalities, that's where you build allies, friendships, relationships that really build that collective movement of change. At the same time, if you're really genuine about inclusion, there are certain things I don't go through that my Black husband does. I educate myself. I see the pain in his eyes when things occur. I do what I can to try and prevent that. But I'm not going to say, oh, because of my husband, because of this, that
Mm.
means I'm this. No, it means I'm more knowledgeable of something and I'll do what I can to remove those barriers and boundaries, but I won't speak on behalf of.
This is a huge conversation
Yeah,
intercultural relationships,
yeah,
which is something we should talk about in a different podcast because that's
yeah.
a huge conversation, which I'd love to explore one day. Now, one of my favorite questions. What does forging your own path mean to you?
It means putting yourself first for the right reason. How often do you not do something to please others at the expense of yourself? It's a mixture of being selfish and generous. You know, you're selfish for yourself to get where you need to be, and you're generous by sharing the benefits, helping others. For example, your business, you need to be selfish to set up your business. You're generous to your customers because they pay the bills, they derive value, and the more value they get, the more likely they are to refer you and help your business grow. If you hadn't put the effort in first of all, you wouldn't have been able to help customers. But if you're so selfish, people aren't going to support you. So that's what how I see it as forging my own path.
I love it. You know, doing things for the right reasons,
Yeah,
not doing things to please another human being for the detriment of
yeah,
oneself, particularly in a world where we're taught what's the right thing to do, what's the good thing to do, what does it look like to be a good boy, a good girl. But fundamentally, people aren't asking what is right for Martin,
yeah,
what is right for Rugare. That is the fundamental question.
I was in Zimbabwe 10 years ago, looking around the falls and some of the national parks. In the hotel we were staying in, there was a barrier because the Nile crocodiles would, of course, enjoy swimming in the pool. So the barrier was there to protect humans. But on the golf course, there were crocodiles and there were warning signs saying, be aware of the crocodile. So you're aware of their environment. The barrier was there to keep us safe, and it was a proper barrier. And where I'm going to here is having those really healthy barriers built into those respectful relationships. I love crocodiles. I think they're an amazing species. I will never get close up to a crocodile, which is too dangerous. But we needed that barrier around the pool because the crocodiles, they have the Zambezi River, they have all of that space. We can have a small pool where we can swim and they can watch. That's cool. But it was just one of those things. And I've written actually a scenario in my book
Yes.
about being referred to Bert and Doris, the friendly crocodiles. You know, Bert tells dirty jokes in the pub. Doris is the CEO of Croc Bank, and they watched my first boxing competition. Doris is a sponsor. She arranged Croc Bank to sponsor. Somebody makes a homophobic comment, and Bert and Doris sort things out. You know, this, but the real thing is that you may assume something it's not correct. You open your heart up and you find friends, and those friends stick by you. But it was a great conversation with Bert and Doris. You know, the salt of the earth, saltwater crocodiles in the community.
I love it. I can't wait for your book. It's amazing you're going on that journey, writing your book and sharing the message so that it can reach so many people. What are some of your barriers that you've put in place to protect the path you're on?
I have a low tolerance for nonsense. What I mean by that is anybody from the UK may have watched a sitcom called Last of the Summer Wine. It was quite moderately funny, but there was a character called Nora Batty who was this like old-fashioned northern woman, hats, and would always like shout at people who were misbehaving. She reminded me of my nan. My nan was a polite Nora Batty, but she'd always tell me to be a gentleman, to be polite, but she would always kind of say something if somebody's being mistreated. So I'm the person who will say something, but if somebody's trying to consume too much of my time, not respecting my boundaries, I'll just walk away. I was too considerate to somebody who was a stalker. Ended up sending me numerous messages and voice messages and emails at the time when I had depression, telling them to stop, didn't stop, blocking them from social media and text messages didn't stop them. I then started getting this really long email. I decided enough was enough, went to the police station. And the police, there were two options. The police could call them or I could lodge the complaint. I went with the first option, but I would have lodged the complaint if their behavior didn't stop. They may have had some issues going on, but I don't care when it's affecting my own health and stress. That's where I will take action. So don't allow other people to erode your happiness.
It's very powerful. I've been in situations where I've allowed so many people to erode my happiness, my joy. And what I've been discovering is that the more I love myself, the easier it is to put up and set up those barriers or, boundaries. And so as I'm listening to you share about, I don't tolerate nonsense, what I hear is you have grown your love for yourself as a human being.
Yeah.
How does that make you feel?
That was a very tough and long life lesson to learn, and I don't always get there.
Mm. And, I just really acknowledge you for going through and sharing that story with us, because I have no doubt many people have gone through that. I've had friends who have gone through what you have gone through. It's awful. It's horrifying.
Yeah.
Absolutely horrifying. But I'm so grateful that you've come out on the other end being able to share who you've become and the opportunity of that.
Yeah. Thank you. And I think in life we're conditioned not to say things within certain parameters. Cultures of some companies is you can say something unless it's something bad. You can only raise an issue. An example, if there's an IT issue, there are processes in place to resolve the IT issue. They look into the root cause of an IT issue because it impacts the organization, staff, and customers. But what if there was another issue taking place? How would they react? And I think that's where the fear comes in. That's sort of my
Mm,
work around courage.
mm,
But I reached a stage in my life where I'll say something. And if the I actually walked away from a job, my last job, which I won't name the organization.
mm,
I had 2 fantastic years at Sydney Uni, loved the place, and contract finished, and I was somewhere for 3 months. It was during the second lockdown, 2021. And I was asked, we were told every single day you can raise an issue. I raised an issue saying, I'm part-time, you're giving me too much work. It can affect my health. I've got a rare
mm,
disease which can kill me. And the response was, you need to decide if that environment is right for you. Then I heard emails are being sent, Martin isn't working out. I resigned on the Monday. On the Tuesday, I'm in hospital with an Addisonian crisis. I let them know I get one communication. Can you confirm you complete your handover by Thursday? I'm in hospital.
mm.
So I knew straight away I'm leaving. I'm not staying here
Yeah. The organization was dripping with empathy and concern for their team's well-being.
until you actually mention an issue.
I always say we don't really know people till we actually go through a crisis together.
I agree.
That's been kind of one of my things I live by is, yeah, you can be nice, you can be kind, but until we really go through a crisis together,
Yeah,
I don't really know you. That's when our values really do show up.
exactly. And just sharing a good laugh, silly. I like silly, zany, simple humor,
Mm,
things which are relatable, everyday items. Those are the best kind of stories.
mm,
And if you can bring storytelling to your communication, share a funny anecdote, share something serious that happened to you, share a way of how you overcame from a problem, you reached A to B, sometimes going via C. Those are the stories that inspire don't stay in victim mentality,
mm,
because although it's important to share, raise the awareness, people do switch off.
mm. And I think that's what is so powerful about what you shared about living your job, because many people actually go through the same situation and then they get gaslit about their experience and blame
Yeah,
themselves. Yet all along, it's the organization that is either mistreating them or not treating them the way they should be in any case. So it does take courage to do what you have done. I know I've stayed in jobs before where I should have left way earlier,
yeah.
but didn't know how to navigate those things then.
What was great, I mean, most people there were absolutely fantastic,
Mm,
is I left a very kind leaving email thanking everybody. I don't believe you should leave on a bad note. I don't want to burn a bridge because you never know where you will meet people in the future. At the same time, my CNN article had just been published. So I was able to say, this is what I'm doing. By the way, if you want to know more about what I'm doing, read this article on CNN. It's currently on the headlines. So
mm.
it was quite poignant that one of my biggest media of the time was also part of my thanks, goodbye, wishing you all well.
Mic drop. So good. Now, in life, we often avoid failure. Failure,
Yeah.
a lot of the time, is associated with being weak or not being enough. When in your life have you felt like a failure, where you felt weak and not enough?
When I got my A level results, I
Mm,
had asthma as a teenager. My A level results were a D and an E, and I thought I'd failed. I didn't get to go to a better university. What in my mind, what was a better university? But I went to the university which was right for me. I was able to get enough points to get into that university. And that university, I had so many opportunities. I was captain of the swimming team, president of the swimming team. I was the editor, I was the sports editor of the newspaper. So many different things I was able to do, the opportunities there, and I seized them. And the lifelong friendships I made, absolutely the right university for me. I think if I'd gone to a different university, it may have been different, but I felt a failure, but I'd still passed. And I still graduated. I'm the first person in my family to graduate, to my knowledge. So sometimes we achieve an outcome, it's not what we expect. Every exam you failed has led you to where you are right now. Everyone you've passed has too, but everyone you have failed, every time you did not get the grade you wanted, brought you to a certain extent where you are right now.
I completely relate to that. When I finished my year 12 in Australia, I didn't get sufficient points to get into law school. But this lady, Margaret Kennedy, who was a stay-home mom, drove me to the university. We had a conversation, and they were like, actually, there's still some places we can enroll you. So I got to experience somebody advocating for me. So though I felt like a loser at that period of time, what I gained was something greater. Learning that I am loved, that there are people there who can advocate for me, that power doesn't look in any way. She was a stay-home mom, and she opened the gate for the rest of my life. She's enough. So it's like these situations, like you said, where I know I definitely felt like I was not enough, a loser, but what I gained, which I didn't know at that time, was way more than the circumstance.
And a big kudos to that person. And look what you've achieved. Imagine if you hadn't been driven there, you hadn't had the conversation. I threw the ceremonial opening pitch at the Chicago Cubs because my publicist, the amazing Nikki Price, she sent an email to the Chicago Cubs PR team, who referred her to the marketing and activations team. We wanted a shout out. So can you give a shout out for the World Gay Boxing Championships taking place at Strong Hands Gym in 3 days' time? What they did was offer Martin the opportunity of throwing the opening ceremonial pitch. And people ask me all the time how I did it. And somebody sent an email. But it was obviously all the previous 5 years' work.
Yes. So the boy from England who lives in Australia, who is in the United States, it's extraordinary.
It's a strong thing. And I've written in my book, because Stark has a Scottish background, and I think the Scottish from both sides of my family, that I did the DNA test was mainly English. And I've written about this in the book, that I actually identify with the Scottish roots, because I think there's that part of standing up and the identity of who you are. That's I'm not going to go into the colonial past, because I know there's a lot of damage done, and I'll talk about that at another stage, and I condemn the history of the British colonial time. But there's just that the roots of that something of being courageous, which I identify with.
So powerful. Now, in Australia, as you know, we have this thing called the tall poppy syndrome.
Yeah.
We don't celebrate those who are accomplished, and we want to tear them down.
Yeah.
So today, I want to talk about your proudest moment. What is your proudest moment, Martin?
My proudest moment is creating WGBC. My happiest moment is meeting my husband, but my proudest moment is creating WGBC and taking a stand for making a difference without knowing what it would become.
I acknowledge you for using your life to create the World Gay Boxing Championships without even knowing all the hurdles and obstacles, but really elevating all of us in the world. I know it takes time and energy and resourcing.
Yeah.
So grateful for how you've used your life.
And when you talk about tall poppies, a tall poppy has criticized me for doing so from within the community.
To be expected.
Yeah.
So tell me, how do you keep joy in your life?
I talk about three different time priorities. The first one is time with my husband, because that's where just spending time with him is when I'm most happy. Time for me, and then time for like friends, family. And then, of course, work is part of that. It's a separate, but I make sure there is time together, happy times together, times where I go to the gym and catch up with friends and different things. I used to compromise too much in priority two. I just make sure that there's a balance there.
Mm. What I love about forging one's own path is that there's no right way. But for me, it's kind of I spend time with myself first. Happy Rugare, happy world.
Yeah.
So happy me, and then I spend time with my husband, then everything else.
Yeah.
But I just love it's all about what nourishes, you know.
Yeah.
So powerful. Thank you for sharing that.
No, you're welcome.
Now, we're going to go into another phase where you get to ask me a question. What question would you like to ask me?
My question for you is a young gay teenager who is in Zimbabwe in 2024. In 4 years' time, he wants to migrate to Australia, go to university, get a great job. What is the one piece of advice you can offer him now that you wished you were given when you were that guy?
Martin, how dare you? It's such a great question. um, the one piece of advice I would wish I had was everything is possible. Everything is possible.
Yeah.
And why I say that, as a child or a teenager, I'm growing up in a society where what my mom and dad say is correct, what my headmaster says is correct. In fact, my headmaster said to me, if you go to Australia, you may commit suicide because you may not be able to cope. And so if I did not have that strong grit and
Yeah.
self-awareness, that could have been the end of my journey.
Yeah.
So what I say to the Zimbabwean teenager who's gay, wanting to come to Australia, is it's possible for you to keep taking action. Just like what you said, Martin, write that email. And a letter got me into Australia.
Yeah.
So yeah.
You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Right in the book, I've been watching so many podcasts, listening to advice. One of the guests on the podcast sold millions of copies of books, said, I reply to every single email, sent him an email saying, this is what I'm doing, wish me luck, and he just gave me a couple of pieces of advice. One of those pieces of advice has been crucial. I had a conversation a few weeks ago with an author who's published over 5 million copies. He was actually a close friend of a good friend of mine. And again, just to get 20 minutes of his time, which he offered willingly, again, a crucial piece of advice, which has saved me hours, thousands of dollars, and has improved the quality of what I'm writing. If you don't contact somebody, but you have the opportunity to, they might reply. If they don't, they don't. You haven't lost anything. But imagine getting the advice of somebody who's doing exactly what you want to do right now, and they give you those tips. One person I contacted gave me some advice, again, very similar. He said, ask me to prioritize what I'm doing right now. I said, writing a book. He said, come back to me when you publish the book. I don't know what that means, but I will go back to him because
yes,
his network and connections are considerably larger and more influential than mine. He might be able to say to his mates, buy this book. I don't know. But I wouldn't have had that comment had I not reached out to him.
Absolutely. I resonate with that because practically every aspect of my life, there's been either an email, a letter, or a phone call that has opened doors.
Yeah.
And advocating for myself has opened doors. Nobody else is coming. Whether you're 14 years old, like we saw that wonderful skateboarder at the Olympics winning gold, or whether you're 77 years old, keep taking the next action.
Yeah.
It's powerful. Now we're going to come to one of my favorite rounds in this show. It's called the BAM lightning round.
Oh, here we go.
Where you're going to get to share incredible resources with mind-blowing answers. No pressure.
Here we go.
So here we go. What is the best advice you've ever received?
Be courageous.
What is one of your personal habits which has led to your success?
I've learned how to make courage a habit.
How are you preparing for growth of AI in our everyday life?
I'm not. I'm adapting to it and using it.
I want to explore that in so much more detail. If there's a book you would recommend, what would it be and why?
It would be Who Moved My Cheese? Because I don't like cheese whatsoever, but it talks about the effect of not adapting to change.
Which one of your role models would you have over for a dinner party?
Muhammad Ali.
What do you want to be remembered for?
For making a difference in ending hatred in boxing and inspiring courage.
Thank you so much for making a difference and inspiring courage. I've no doubt people who are listening to this show will be like mind blown by the way you've lived your life. You know, I've thoroughly enjoyed listening to your story. You know, how can people find you and connect with you?
You go to my website, martinstark.co. You can find me on LinkedIn. I'm not on there far too often. You can also go to my YouTube channel, The Courage Champion.
Amazing. And how can people work with you, Martin?
You can work with me. I have a course on how to make an impact and achieve business success on LinkedIn. And again, it's on my course. I can coach you on LinkedIn. Again, just reach out on my website, or if you need a keynote speaker, I'm an awesome speaker on courage. I've spoken at TikTok, LinkedIn, NRMA, Commonwealth Bank, Transport New South Wales Health, and Waverley College. And I'm starting to speak more in America.
Amazing. You must hire Martin for your next keynote event. Thank you so much for your generosity. And for the audience, thank you so much for listening to my show. You can follow me on LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube. My favorite two are LinkedIn and YouTube. So please follow me there. And if you want more information about this show, visit my website at www.rugaregomo.com. Thank you, Martin, again.
Thank you, everybody. Take care.